Michael Sandel, and I'm very happy to be in Taiwan.
观众朋友好，我是夏佳茹，欢迎收看今天的影响力100。今天看到我们这摄影棚哦，整个布置非常不一样。看到朱学恒、朱大将我旁边，可能一时之间大家会以为今天影响力100遇见的是朱学恒，
其实不是，
其实不是。但为什么朱大今天会来这呢？是因为我们今天的来宾哦，来头特大的。那么朱大呢，跟我们今天的来宾世界级的这位哈佛教授有一些特殊的渊源。
因为其实他的 Justice， 也就是正义一场思辨之旅的网络课程，都是由我翻译的。那我也在公共电视主持过他的 Justice 在台湾的节目，所以今天特地来此贡献一己绵薄之力啊！
好了，我们今天这边还有一些同学们，有9位同学是分别来自台大跟政大的学生。今天来到这边现场，是因为我们知道呢，来到我们今天这边要做访问的这位 Michael Sandel 这个教授呢，他最有名的哦，就是他跟学生之间互动的方式，他上课的方式很特别。所以我们等一下在节目当中也有这么一段，让学生们可以直接跟教授来做面对面的接触跟互动。
是因为Sandel 教授其实擅长的是苏格拉底在希腊城邦那个时候的论辩哦，所以我先问一下 Francis 好了，今天能够来现场跟哈佛大学的教授有一个互动，所以你觉得他会能够带给你什么样子的不同的看法吗？
他的书跟他在哈佛的演讲就已经给我很多的启发。然后我对他
是什么科系的？
哦，我是外文系的。
哦，外文系的 ，OK。
然后我对他，其中他曾经引述过的一句话是美国的政治哲学家 John Rawls 他说过，正与不正义在于社会对待自然分配的不平均。然后我觉得大家都会想要做出正确的行为，但是所谓什么叫做正确 ，What is the right thing to do 本身就有很大的思辨，非常多的辩论，所以我觉得等一下的讨论一定可以给我很多的启发，我非常期待。
哇，同学们非常期待。可是有些观众朋友可能不知道说为什么同学们这么高兴。我们接下来这段影片就先让观众朋友稍微认识一下今天来到我们现场的来宾是怎么样的一位大师级人物。来看。
迈可桑德尔被华盛顿邮报誉为是全美国最知名的大学教授，之所以享誉盛名，全因为在哈佛大学开设的这堂课。
Remember the whole carefully worded denials in the Monica Lewinsky affair of Bill Clinton. Suppose someone gives you a tie as a gift, and you open the box, and it's just awful. What do you say? Could you say, not a white lie, but a misleading truth? You open the box and you say, I've never seen a tie like that before. Thank you.
善于用新闻事件及生活经验举例，把难懂的哲学概念用深入浅出的方式训练学生的思考能力。桑德尔在哈佛教授的这门课叫做正义。1980年第一次开课的时候，只有15名学生。 时至今日，每年已经有超过1500人选修这堂课，累积的学生超过了1.5万人，打破哈佛375年来的记录。
It's a democratic. You're smiling, Alex, already. You're confident you can reply to all of these.
习惯用讨论的方式与学生互动，桑德尔鼓励大家透过理性的辩论、民主对话，才能够向上提升，不会流于口水或互呛层次。
So raise your hand if you are among the libertarians who's prepared to stand up for the theory and respond to the objections.
一学期的上课实况被剪辑成12个钟头，在美国公共电视播出，这是美国史上的第一次。教学影带被放上网络之后，点阅率更是冲破了100万。 桑德尔将教学内容写成书，这本《正义》在台湾也相当的热销，是去年博客来排名的第2名，卖出了将近3万本。今年9月出版的《钱买不到的东西》，短短时间就冲上了成品销售排行冠军。
想说他难得来台湾，之前有看过他的公开课，然后就非常喜欢，觉得机会很难得。
这趟台湾行，桑德尔在台大体育馆的演讲，5000张票，1天之内有6000个人来登记，一票难求。更别说他在日本东京的演讲，黄牛票甚至叫价到500块美金了。
The majority think it's all right to scalp tickets to a Lady Gaga concert. Let's hear from someone who finds it objectionable to scalp tickets. What would be your reason?
到底这位人气教师有什么样的教学魅力？今天的影响力100就要重现哈佛课堂上的教学模式，带您一睹大师风采。
现在就起来热烈欢迎今天来到现场的 Professor Michael Sandel. Welcome, welcome to our studio. Welcome, welcome.
Good to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Good to meet you.
Please have a seat.
Thank you.
So it's really our great honor can have you here in your studio.
It's a pleasure to be here.
So this is your first trip to Taiwan.
It is.
How do you feel about Taiwan? Your impression of Taiwan so far?
I love it. It's a fascinating place. The people are warm and welcoming and very eager to engage in discussion.
You've been doing a lot of the speech tours over the world. You've been to Japan, United Kingdom, of course, America, and China, and this time in Taiwan.
Right.
I mean, the philosophy is the same. You've been asking people to throw themselves into discussion and understand what's right and what's wrong. But the idea is the same. Then the culture and context of different countries is not the same.
Right.
What's the biggest challenge for you?
Two challenges, actually. One is to learn about examples in each country, for example, in Taiwan, that raise what are the questions about justice, about equality and inequality, about the moral limits of market, about the role of money that people in Taiwan are thinking about. So that's one thing I have to learn whenever I visit. And then the other challenge is to invite and encourage everyone, especially students, to participate in the discussion rather than just think that I'm coming to give a lecture and to give all the answers. I don't have all the answers. I have a lot of questions.
Yes, and that'd be very difficult for our learning style.
And here is your new book, What Money Cannot Buy, was published in Chinese already.
Yes.
So this book is about the moral limits of markets.
Yes.
What does that mean?
Well, what that means is that in recent decades, market values, market thinking, have begun to reach into almost every sphere of life. Markets are very good at allocating material goods, like flat-screen televisions, cars, toasters. Markets work well with material goods and produce rising prosperity. But we've shifted, I think, without realizing it, from having a market economy to becoming market societies. This is true, I think, in many countries around the world. But a market society is a place where almost everything is up for sale, where market values reach into almost every sphere of life, from family life to personal relationships to health, education, and civic life.
Every part of life.
Yes, and so what I'm suggesting in the new book is that what we need to do is to have public discussion, to reason together about where markets serve the public good and where they don't belong.
You know, the market is even expanding than before. If this is a wrong direction, is there any solution to stop the things getting worse?
I think the only solution is for citizens, beginning with students who are eager to think about these things, but citizens generally, to have a serious public debate about where markets belong and where they may do damage to important values.
Because everyone loves money.
Yeah, when I heard, that's why when I heard you were writing the book, What Money Can Buy, I was thinking it's a much smaller book.
Yes.
You know, nowadays, almost everything can be bought with money.
Well, yes. Yeah, and that exactly is really the point of the book. And I have example after example, some of them quite funny, others very serious, about how money today can buy almost anything. Now, so what's left, you might ask?
What's left? You might be what's left with a much smaller, even blank book. Well, nothing's left.
Well, take one example that almost everyone would agree that money can't buy, friendship. We all sense that money can't really buy a true friend. And yet, sometimes money tries to do something similar. I read about people on Facebook. Do you use Facebook, the students here? That if someone on Facebook doesn't have very many friends, there used to be a website where you could buy extra friends, Facebook friends, for 99 cents a month. her friend. They were very handsome, very attractive friends. But that website was shut down. It turned out to be a corrupt website.
Turned out to be too efficient, I guess.
But here's one small example that I mention in the book, where people come close to buying friendship. You know, when your friends get married,
Yes.
sometimes if it's your best friend, they may ask you to give the wedding toast, the wedding speech to the bride and groom, a very personal, heartwarming speech. But many people are afraid that they can't write a good, warm, eloquent speech. So now there are companies where you can go online and you can buy a wedding toast. You send them the information about the couple getting married, how long they've known each other, how you came to know them. You can say whether you want a funny wedding toast or a very heartwarming one. And how much do you think it costs?
$50?
$50? This is a custom-written wedding toast.
I don't know. I might have to call for President Obama for him, because he also hired people to write speeches for
All right,
him.
well,
But that's different, I think.
Okay, well, why is it different?
differences?
Well,
Yeah,
all
we'll
right.
ask the-
Here's a question. Why is that different?
Because friends is different. If your friends is really important to you,
Yes,
you really have to do something for her by yourself.
yes, yes. Okay, that's a great...
I
that's a
don't
great-
agree, but
Okay.
politicians also told you they love you. Why? They do things from their heart.
But they lie because they need your vote.
Okay,
Right?
so they're not true friends, really. Now, by the way, the cost of the paid wedding toast is $149.
Wow.
Within 3 business days, you get it delivered to you.
Even you're counting with business days. It's
And
a wedding toast.
it includes shipping and handling, everything.
Okay.
Here's a way of testing it. If at your wedding, your best friend gave a moving wedding toast, it brought tears to your eyes. And then later, you learned that he had bought that wedding toast online. How would you feel?
I feel cheated.
Yeah. And would you feel that somehow the friendship was damaged a little bit, maybe?
A little bit, maybe, but I'm deeply touched that he's willing to spend money on my wedding.
So you might like it more if he paid a lot rather than a
Yeah,
little.
I was asking the price tag.
Okay, but here's the difference. The presidential speech is a great example, because when presidents give speeches, we know that they use speechwriters. We
Yes.
expect that. And we have a certain distance from presidents. It's not an intimate relationship. And so this is how discussions can at least begin, just the way we began here. Wedding toast, what about a paid speechwriter for a politician? How similar are they? How different are they? Anytime we debate and reflect together about the proper role of money and markets and buying and selling, we have to ask, what is this good about? What is the value of this good?
Professor, you provided a lot of intriguing examples in the books.
Yes.
So many things that we do not know, like you can buy the rights to shoot a black rhino, and you can pay for people to stand in line for the lobbyists of the parliament.
Yes.
And even for the higher court, chance to really listen and
Yes.
understand the process. How did you find all those examples?
Where did you get it?
Yes.
I've been collecting these examples, believe it or not.
All by yourself?
Well, mostly by myself, but students who know I've been working on this book send me examples, and from the newspaper or that they've heard. I've been collecting these examples for 15 years while I've been thinking about this book, and finally I sat down and wrote it. But the reason I wanted to use all of these stories, all of these examples, is so that I could make the philosophical point about how we need to debate the role of free markets in our society, but in a way that everyone could understand and identify with. Because everyone has opinions on whether we should buy wedding toasts or friends, or whether there should be an open market in organs for transplantation, whether universities should sell admission, for example, or whether we should have a free market in votes during election time. Some people say that a lot of this goes on illegally. But so the examples make the philosophy accessible to everyone, not just to scholars.
Everyone can understand that.
can listen and participate in the debates.
Yes, but that leads to another question is that, I've been thinking that the great Professor Sandel is collecting and doing all the research by himself. And we are respecting you for you to do all the things as a scholar. But I've heard that some of the students are helping you, assistants are helping you. So maybe you are doing something that money should not buy. Do the research and collecting,
here's his question now.
I don't pay them.
Yeah. Oh. Okay. So it's free. You don't use money to buy them, then it's okay.
No, actually, I'm kidding. Some of the examples have come from friends who know that I'm working about this, who knew I was working on this book. Some of the examples have come from students because I've taught a number of courses at Harvard on the question of markets and morals, ethics and economics, as a way to help me think through these questions, and also as a way of enabling students to think through these questions. So I tried out a lot of these examples on the students, and as we discussed them, they often thought of new examples. So that helped me gather more.
Do you get authorization from them for doing that?
So you have.
They're usually very willing.
Okay, I think I can understand.
So you have good friends that they are economists.
Yes.
So, because it seems like you disapprove the economist way that everything is based on market.
Yes.
So when you meet your economist friend,
yes,
you always get into serious argument?
Often. In fact, I've invited some economist friends to come into my classes at Harvard from time to time to have debates about what should and should not be sold for money. And most of my economist friends believe that markets and market reasoning can pretty much give us the answer to most questions of public policy. And I disagree with that. And I wrote the book to try to explain why I disagree and to invite readers to think for themselves.
And we will have a break.
Okay.
After 2 minutes, when we come back, we will talk about the debate in your family.
Okay.
You and your sons.
Right. Good.
Okay, we will come back soon. 我们马上就回来。欢迎回到影响力班，我们接下来就要请教授跟我们聊聊他家庭生活的部分哦。Professor, you mentioned your two boys in your books.
Yes.
Aiden and Aaron, right?
Yes.
How old are they?
They're 26 and 24.
26 and 24.
Much older than we expected. We're thinking about toddlers.
No.
They're older than I expected them.
Quicker than you expected.
So you said that as toddlers, you started the justice and morality discussion with them when they could hold their spoons.
Yes.
Wow, my daughter, she's 1 year and 4 months, and she can hold her spoon now, but she can only, say the very simple words, few words like mama and papa.
Well, that's a start.
Yeah, but I'm wondering, what kind of topic would that be when they were so young?
Well, they couldn't hold a spoon until they were 14 years old. So no, I'm kidding. I'm joking.
I will write an email to tell you.
No. But maybe from the time they were 4 or 5 years old.
Okay.
We would have discussions around the dinner table, not about Aristotle and Plato and Confucius, but about what happened on the playground or about something a friend of theirs did. And
just their daily life.
Their daily life, but very often in daily life, things happen that even young children think are wrong, right, wrong, fair, unfair. They complain about it. As they get a bit older, something may happen in school where they may think the teacher was unfair to one of the other children, or they may think something happened on the playground that wasn't right. And so we would discuss it and invite them to give their opinions. And that was the beginning.
So, were there any interesting or memorable discussion between you and your son that you wouldn't mind sharing with us?
Well, if my wife were here, she would tell you that some of the discussions we have, some are drawn from things we read about in the newspapers, especially as they got older, where we would discuss political events, for example, and questions of justice controversies about justice. But sometimes we would debate questions about what I should do.
Like you should go to wash dishes, you know.
Well, I wash dishes anyhow. We don't have to debate that.
So it's a free consultant from your sons, right?
Well, exactly. And so if there was some question about whether I should accept some certain kind of invitation, or if I was asked to do something, well, I'll give you one example, but it's strictly among us.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Let's not tell anyone.
I was supposed to go on a trip to Mexico for a festival, and the sponsors wanted to put my picture on a Pepsi can, on cans
Wow.
of Pepsi. I thought that might be good publicity for my book or something. So we discussed it in the family, and there was a disagreement about whether this was appropriate, whether it was too commercializing an educational activity. And after a full debate, we had a vote.
You have a vote.
Yeah.
4 people, right?
Yes.
And 2-2.
I think it was 2-2, but my wife's vote counts as 5.
Okay.
And the result was, well, what do you think the result was?
Too commercial.
That
Not
is
Too commercial, I
accepting
think
that.
so.
not acceptable. And so I've never had my picture on a Pepsi can as a result.
Sounds a little bit remorse in your sound, right?
I abided by the majority.
Okay.
So your wife, Kiku, she
Yes.
always gives out the final judgment, right?
She does.
Can she, can you guys always agree with her comments in the end?
We don't always
You have
we don't
to.
always agree,
You
but
have
we
to.
abide by them. But the reason we always followed is she has a very strong moral sense.
Okay.
But that comes out in the discussions we have in the debates around the dinner table. But I think that the dinner table is actually one of the most important starting points for civic education.
So under your training for years, your boys must be very rational for
Well,
everything.
rational. They are thoughtful and
Yes,
reflective, and they are not reluctant to question their father or their mother, for that matter.
Well, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So what you mentioned, like for a chapter, 3 or 4 pages about Moneyball.
Yes, yes.
And I'm a baseball fan.
Uh-huh,
So
okay.
you said that he talked a lot of things about the Oakland Athletics.
Right,
and
they
he
were the
talked-
first Moneyball team.
Yes, and after, I think you don't like Brad Pitt. So you're not touched by the movie Moneyball. So that's my
I
assumption.
really love
but
that one, the movie.
You liked the
Yes,
movie?
I love
because
that
he's handsome. Oh, come
movie.
on.
Okay.
Actually, I thought Brad Pitt was the best thing about that movie.
Oh, wow.
But what I didn't like is that actually Moneyball is a metaphor for economic reasoning dominating everything. And now it dominates baseball.
Even sports.
Yeah, even sports. I played baseball when I was a kid. I coached my son when he played baseball growing up. I love baseball. But I think that the true love of baseball and knowledge of baseball depends on judgment about what to do when. And Moneyball uses economic reasoning to try to turn baseball into a science, to a science of economic reasoning using statistics. And I think it sometimes goes too far and takes the joy
Yes.
and the human drama and passion.
Passion cannot be quantified.
That's what I
But
think.
now baseball is a business.
Yeah, but
Well,
Every
it is-
kind of sport is a business.
It is a business, and the players get paid enormous salaries.
Yes.
One baseball player in the United States, Alex Rodriguez, gets paid $27 million a year. And as a Red Sox fan, I mean, we don't like him.
yeah.
We don't like him. We don't like
and
him.
I think you mentioned a lot about what you just told us about the Moneyball is try to quantify
Yes.
passion and love.
Yes.
And you also say that since Michael Lewis wrote the book,
Yes.
so every other people like Red Sox
That's right.
understand the strategy behind Moneyball, so it does not play well for the Oakland Athletics. But I think this October, Oakland Athletics actually beats Texas Rangers and won the American League West. So may I assume that a good philosopher cannot be a good sports column writer at the same time?
No. No. I think in another life, I would like to be a sports writer or a sports broadcaster.
Wow.
And I think, or better yet, if you're offering me any job, I would like to manage the Boston Red Sox.
Wow.
And I think they did badly this last year.
Yes.
But they fired their manager, and I'm available for the job.
Well, that's posted on Facebook or Craigslist. Red Sox fans, you got a new manager waiting here.
I'm available. But, and I would use statistics up to a point. But I also think baseball needs a human judgment and passion, as we said.
Where we ask the players to debate between each other about the strategies in the assignment?
No. I would decide the strategies. They can debate with the umpires.
Okay.
So, Professor, you developed your interest in public affairs when you were young.
Yes.
You even invited President Reagan, he was the governor of California at that time, to your school and had come debate with him.
Yes.
Wow. Have you ever thought about, be a politician, like running a campaign or getting involved with public service?
I have thought about it. And when I graduated college, I thought maybe I would be a political journalist or maybe I would go into politics, because I've always been fascinated by politics and concerned about the common good, which ideally is what politics should be about. But then I became fascinated with political philosophy, and so wound up being a professor. But I always retained, and I still have, my interest in actual political affairs and public life. And so in writing about philosophy, I've tried to connect philosophy with the world in which we live, and the political arguments and debates that we have, and to try to give some shape and to have maybe some small positive influence on the way we conduct our public discourse.
And as we all know, the most attractive part of your lectures is the interactions between you and students. And here are my students.
Here they are.
Yeah, they would love to, have this great opportunity and honor to do so later. We will have
to
a
be
break.
humiliated.
No, never.
We will have a break and come back soon.
Thank you.
好，回到我们的节目现场，接下来就是学生们跟老师互动的时间了。因为我们知道这Michael Sandel 他最有名的部分就是他跟学生之间的互动。所以呢，今天来到这边的9位同学有从台大、政大来的不同的科系哦。哪位同学想要先提问的 ？Okay, this one will be the first.
Hello, Professor. I'm Edison, and I'm from National Taiwan University, and it was my honor to meet you here. and by the way, I just like your purple tie. It's just stunning. Yeah. And here's my question. You always talk about justice, and what do you think about justice? Is justice a belief or a standard?
Well, that's a question. That's too good a question and too important a question for me to answer in a short answer. The better way to explore it is for us to have a discussion. Should we do that?
Yeah, go ahead. It's showtime.
Yes, that's right. It's showtime.
All right. Well, let's pull back. Let's begin with a question that isn't about justice as such, but a dilemma, a very practical question. Suppose you're in charge of a school. Some students do well, others not so well. And you want to motivate the students who are not performing well to do better. And an economist comes to you and says, I have a solution. Here is a fund that you can use to pay students cash rewards for getting good grades or for reading books. You can give $50 for an A, $35 for a B. You can pay, if you're teaching young students, each student $2 for each book he or she reads. How many, now you're the head of the school, you're the principal. How many would be in favor of that policy? Raise your hand.
None of you?
One, Edison would.
Okay.
Who else? Who would be against it?
Me.
Most are against it.
Wow.
What would you try it, Luke?
Of course.
Yes,
I
you would.
try it.
All right.
If money can lead to good destination,
All
why
right.
not?
All right. And Lulu, you're the principal. Would you?
I think I would try a shot.
You would try. So the adults would try it. The students, except for Edison, wouldn't. So let's hear from someone who objects, who would not do it. Why? Who would? And I'll come and see what you think. Why would you be against it? As Lucifer says, it's a way of trying to improve academic performance. And you agree with Lucifer, Edison, right?
It's ultimately good, right? Leads to good things, at least in my standpoint.
Okay, so what's wrong with that, Jeremy?
Well, I think the student should be motivated by their will to knowledge, not motivated by those incentives, such as money.
So is money a lower incentive?
Because the will to knowledge cannot be bought by money.
The will to knowledge. And what does that mean exactly? You're the head of the school. What sort of attitude toward knowledge, toward learning, do you want to cultivate in your students?
Yeah, I want to cultivate a student, but I hope they are self-motivated.
Self-motivated to learn for the love of learning?
Yeah.
Not for money.
Yeah.
Who else?
Excuse me, Professor.
You want to reply?
Yeah, because I think I'm not really agree with him, because I think not everyone come from a wealthy family,
right.
And they have to. I don't mean to use the word waste, but they have to waste their time on working on, like in McDonald's, KFC, and they try to use the time to make the money to pay for their school.
And so in your school, you would say, don't work a job.
Yeah,
I'll
you
pay
just study, concentrate, and
Yeah.
you'll become more successful on what you should do.
And how much would you pay for each book they read?
I think it depends on what status you may in. Like you in primary school, in college.
Let's say they're in primary school.
Primary school, I think 50 Taiwan dollars, like $3 will do, I think.
Was that what you would pay?
Well, I think I'll just try to make them with Yu-Gi-Oh cards. You know, the trading cards?
Yes.
Yeah, because it will cost less than $15.
You want to save money. You want to save money.
Yes.
But suppose that paying them more will get them to read more books. What
I
would you
think
say?
money will be the one thing, but the other that this will be kind of price. It will be kind of honor, you know.
The honor.
Yeah,
What-
behind the money.
Yes. And so the money is just a token for the honor.
Yes,
that
it's
you're
maybe
given.
it's maybe only a prize, and after the prize, it may be kind of honor.
But you could give them a certificate to honor them
Yes, of course.
without
Use
money.
it to exchange for Yu-Gi-Oh cards.
All right. Who
But
else?
money, they can use their money to do anything they want.
Right. Which makes it more appealing, maybe. And yet almost everyone here disagrees with that. So let's hear some more objections. Jeremy worries that this might be inconsistent with teaching students to learn for the love of learning. What other objections? Alice?
Hello, Professor. Well, I think the main point that we should not allow this kind of measure is that as students, if we get grades, it is a symbol of honor and achievement. And we need to, and as for school leader, they should cultivate character for citizens.
I see.
So if we put the money into non-market norms, then it will lead some problems like corruption.
Aha.
Oh, corruption.
It sounds like you've already read the book.
Yeah.
That's not cheating exactly, is it? No. And I didn't even have to pay Alice.
Yes, I read the book.
Okay, so schools are also about cultivating character, you say.
Yeah.
And why would paying students to study be inconsistent with cultivating character? Why might it damage their character?
Just like I'm a law major, and the future career for law school students will be lawyers.
Yeah.
But if we put this kind of too monetary culture into a future lawyer,
Yes.
then it will be a damage to the lawyer society in the future. Everyone will work for money
Rather than?
work for justice.
For justice.
Okay, so you might, if it's a law student, encourage law students in the future to think their only purpose as lawyers is to make money and not to promote justice.
I think the main goal for a lawyer is to maintain justice of the society.
That's interesting. Now, I think Lucifer is something of a skeptic about lawyers.
Well, I think most of the people in Taiwan will be against that lawyers are only aiming for justice. Of course, they can be bought. We are hiring lawyers to do our things, to defend us. And you know, there's a lot of jokes about lawyers. If you throw lawyers into the ocean, even sharks will not eat them. But I mean, my real question is, what's wrong with cultivating the love for money?
Rather than the love of learning.
Yes.
Well, what's the answer to that, Alice?
Well, I think that pursuant to several ancestors' experiences in the real royal society,
yes.
If we have a much more character, then it is easy to attract the following students to your firm.
I see.
Because as a student, we are very concerned about the character of the boss, who we are working for.
Right.
So we are selective. So if a successful boss wants to recruit really elite students, then he or she should cultivate the character.
Okay, so I'm hearing a little bit more idealism from the students, Lucifer, than I am from.
That's why they are students, right?
That's pretty. Is there anyone? Let me ask the students this question. We've been talking about the principal paying students. By the way, in the one school in Texas where they tried paying students to read books, it did lead the students to read more books. It also led the students to read shorter books. A market principle, right? More efficient, a market principle. But I'd be interested in asking the students, let's talk about parents now. Parents paying their children for getting good grades, doing well in school. How many students, when you were paid or given gifts? Raise your hand. Everybody but Francis? Francis? No. Why? You were deprived, were you? Why? No. Why did your everybody else's parents paid? Yours didn't.
No. She offered the offer that if I achieve some score, she will give me some money. But I think my incentive never relies on that.
Yes.
Because the motivation of reading and of learning, probably because I'm a student and I lived in a pretty good family, so I'm never deprived of
I understand.
anything. So I didn't recognize the importance of having money. So the incentives lies in my motivation of learning and achievement.
Right. Now the rest of you were paid at one point or another by your parents. When you are parents, are you going to offer money to your children to get good grades? Edison says yes, he will.
Of course, I think that what my father taught me is that money is important, and you want to stay up. My father was a doctor, and if you want to stay at this luxury life, this warm life, this happy life, then you have to work hard with the right direction. Which when I was a student, I studied. So I think that beside the money part, he told me a most important thing is to look at the bright side.
Timmy.
I think if I were the parents, I will pay my children because I think the concept of giving them allowance is a very great learning for children. They should learn that as well. So if they get good grades on studies, I think they should be rewarded by money.
Good. And who disagrees? Who will not pay his or her children to study or to get good grades? Anyone? Ketty, we haven't heard from you. Will you?
I'm willing to pay my children.
You are willing?
Yes.
But Jeremy, you're not.
I will give my children gifts instead of money.
What kind of gift? All right, here's a question. Will the gift be like candy or a television set, or will it be like gifts like books?
Or a letter wrote by his father, right?
I will give them something not too expensive, but have the meaning of honor.
So the meaning, not the money, is what you think will matter in the gift.
Because my father is a laborer, and he always tell me that I don't expect you to make a lot of money. I just want you to be a decent guy.
Back to character. This is a wonderful group of students, and what the discussion shows is an important lesson about the debates we need to have in our society about the role of money and markets in seeking the public good. Some point out that a financial incentive might get students to learn more, and Lucifer certainly thinks so. But others, the majority of this group, think that sometimes money and market values, paying kids to read books, may actually erode or corrupt or crowd out other values like the love of learning for its own sake that are higher values than money. This is one small example in the area of teaching and learning about how we really need to think together about whether money and market thinking promotes the goods we seek or may undermine them. Sure. Pretty impressive group.
Yes, let's give a big hand to our students. They're doing very good.
所以我们刚才真的就体验了老师上课的感觉了哈。Professor, your justice course started at 1980 with only 15 students at the beginning, but now there are more than 15,000 students had taken your course already. And through your justice course, what kind of impact do you wish to on your students back in?
Well, what I hope above all is that they learn some philosophy. But really what I hope for is that they become more reflective citizens, that they begin to think for themselves, to question their own assumptions about the meaning of justice and the good society. And in thinking for themselves about these questions, that they will be able to be effective citizens to engage in public discourse of a better kind than the one to which we're accustomed today.
And well, it's very hard to imagine that people were actually expecting a second episode of Justice. So, well, I should ask, do you have any following projects that will open your courses for the millions of viewers out there? People were actually expecting that.
All right. Well, I'm still thinking about it, but the most likely next step would be I might try to do a course or maybe a short course on the subject of the new book about debates about money and markets. The other plan I have is now that so many people around the world have seen the Justice course, I would like to create a global classroom experiment. And I've begun to do this. I began to do this last semester, where we create live video-linked, real-time, global classroom with participation from students. It would be we tried it this semester at Harvard, and we had students participating from universities in 4 countries around the world. So we had 5 countries represented in different time zones across national and cultural differences to come together for global discussions about questions of justice and ethics and the role of money and markets in a good society.
Wow, we're looking forward to it.
Maybe next time, including Taiwan too.
It would be great. I would love that.
And at the end of the interview today, we have this gift for you.
Thank you so much.
This is pineapple cake.
Thank you.
That? It's very famous local dessert.
Yes, yes.
Very thank you and wish you have a great time here in Taiwan.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Really have enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Do share with Keiko.
I will. I will. Thank you.
也谢谢我们今天同学们的参与，感谢观众的收看，我们下礼拜再见，谢谢 ，Thank you。
Thank you.